an
session.
official person?
We're the time to be slimming.
Go for it.
All right. The Blended Township Board of Trustee regular work session meeting is called to order at 5:30 p.m. You may remain seated for a moment of reflection or stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pat, can we get a roll call?
Sorry.
Present.
Trustee Siamonko.
Present.
Trustee Zobel.
Present. We have on here that we're supposed to discuss the purpose of the meeting. These work sessions are just a way to have an informal meeting where the trustees can get together and talk about business without having anything formally voted on. The regular trustee meeting will be directly after this, and items that we discuss now may or may not be voted on then or at a subsequent meeting. That said, the first item that we're going to be doing today is we have a special guest, Michael Stenziano, who is here to discuss your property taxes.
Well, thank you all for the opportunity to be here. I don't, microphone's on, everyone can hear me okay? So for you all, I think it's tough because the presentation is but I don't know who's got a clicker or who's gonna, you want me up there driving it?
No.
Okay, driving it. But I had a great list of questions, items to discuss, so really appreciate the opportunity to be here. For those that aren't aware, Michael Stenziano, have the honor of serving as your county auditor. Auditor does a range of functions. We kind of branded as Connect, Protect, Reassess. But the questions are a little bit of what goes on with property taxes, so what the office does, doesn't do to some extent. There is a proposal to eliminate property taxes across the state of Ohio, as well as just generally what the office is up to this year. So those are my goals to cover, but if anyone has any questions at any point, please don't hesitate to shout them out. So the auditor's office, mile wide in terms of responsibilities. The Connect piece, we really work hard at being out in the community, let folks know what we do. The Reassess piece is the big one that people every 3 years, if not in between those 3 years, have questions about. Auditor is statutorily required to go out and update property values for all properties across the county every 3 years. We also administer a number of programs, including dog licensing, and serve as the chief weights and measures entity. So that is mostly known as the sticker on the gas pump. If you're ever curious at why you see a auditor's sticker versus a City of Columbus sticker, the City of Columbus has its own weights and measures team. So a good way to determine that is normally either parking meters or what sticker you see on the gas pumps, if you're in the City of Columbus or somewhere else in the county. So when I also often get asked about, well, let's talk property taxes, I am quick to point out it is the treasurer, not the auditor, the treasurer who sends the property tax bill. That's also the treasurer, not the auditor, the treasurer who you send your property tax to. But the auditor's office does play an important role in how the valuation combined with your taxing district gets calculated. We send that calculation over to the treasurer's office. That's then where they send the bill out. We see a lot of emails right now of there was a due date. I'm seeing it wasn't processed. That's gonna all be on the treasurer's function, although the auditor's office is happy to help folks. So the key thing on assessing the value, 35% of the auditor's valuation combined with your taxing district, so what Bob and Betty Buckeye vote on in elections, is how we get to the property taxes. That often confuses folks of what's going on. At the same time, depending on the cycle with valuation, and we'll talk about a little bit more, your value can go up, your taxes can go down. Your value can go down, your taxes can go up. The calculation that the state has established causes a lot of confusion. We put a lot of calculators out there, want to make sure people are able to judge if this is the auditor's valuation, what is that going to do or not do to my property taxes? Hot topic right now, just because everyone has continued to see costs rise, particularly across Franklin County the last decade. It's been a very hot real estate market. The property values have really increased in terms of the auditor's role in establishing that auditor's valuation. Again though, my caveat is always, value can go up, taxes can go down. So in 2023, the last year, we were statutorily required to do a mass reappraisal. We had historic value increases across the county. On average, values went up 41%. That's a big number. That does not mean your property taxes went up 41%. But for two school levies, City of Columbus and City of Dublin, 50% of property taxes would have been flat or actually decreased. Because of those two school levies, and primarily City of Columbus being such a large portion of the county, that increased that to 8%. So that's how much what people do on the ballot impact their property taxes. Again, 41% value increase, 50% of property owners would have actually seen flat or reduction because of where they were within their own levying cycle and their taxing districts. But we get residents want clear, understandable answers, so we put out a value of your vote. So if you're gonna ever have a issue that could increase your property taxes, we're gonna notify you so that you can go use our levy calculator on the auditor's website. This year being a triennial property value update, we will have a calculator so you can plug in the auditor's tentative value, or if you decide that's gonna be also your final value, and see what's going on within your current district, current taxing district. The caveat being, I don't know what's going to get approved or not approved on the ballot this November. So there's a lot of click here, caveating that this is your current taxing district. It could change. The other big thing that's going on this year is there is a proposal to eliminate property taxes. So there's the Citizens for Property Tax Reform Constitutional Amendment. They are seeking by July 2nd to submit 413,487 signatures that would have to be validated by boards of elections across the state. We need the signatures coming from 44 of the 88 counties. That would put on the ballot this November a pretty simple question. Should we have property taxes or not? It's a pretty simple question, a yes-no answer. What it doesn't answer, and where I think there's a lot of consternation, beyond the reliance of the property taxes, is what's next. So property taxes, and we'll show a little bit of where property taxes get distributed to. It doesn't answer how we would fund schools anymore. It doesn't answer the other safety services, other services that the property tax that are voted on would go to. And so there's a little bit of an unknown, but it is an interesting ongoing discussion of, should we be having property taxes calculated the way they are? Should we go to the General Assembly, who controls that formula, make those changes, or should we just get rid of them and put it back to the General Assembly to meet some of their constitutional statutory obligations? And will they do it by increasing sales tax, increasing income tax, maybe just cutting services across the board? That is a big unknown. Not necessarily the auditor's function, other than we are currently part of the formula that gets to property taxes. So a lot of people are worried, is the auditor's office concerned that they'll be all out of jobs? We have a mile wide of responsibilities. We'll do our other statutory functions, and who knows what the legislature will come up with. But wanting to make sure it is on folks' radar Factual only, don't really have a office position on it, but it is really a kitchen table issue that we're hearing from a lot of folks on. And it's just trying not to ignore the issue, because while we have that, people always have their property tax bills coming up. So again, property tax bill, the biggest, about 2/3 of every property tax bill goes to local schools. There's inside millage that goes to county government, but then you also are funding city, villages, townships, libraries, the zoo. We are very generous across Franklin County. We fund a zoo that's in Delaware County. But it is part of what your property taxes go to. You can look up on the auditor or the treasurer's website your property tax bill. A lot of folks that are paying through escrow never really see it unless the bank calls and says, hey, we've got an escrow issue. So we encourage people to understand what their property taxes are funding, and if they've got questions or where they are in that levy cycle, we're happy to explain that to them as well. Here's kind of what you would see if you go to a tax bill in Blendon Township, kind of where that breakdown is, what percentage goes to the schools, metro parks, all the wonderful things that voters have approved for funding of their property taxes. This is assuming an appraised auditor value of $300,500. Again, 35% of that auditor's value combined with the taxing district is how we're going to get to that ultimate valuation, or property tax. And I wanted an example of what you'd actually see on your property tax bill. So there's already a number of reduction factors that get included under current Ohio law. General Assembly towards the end of last year, before January, passed a number of other reforms. But there are often a lot of questions of, well, I see this, but then there's these reductions. That's how, if auditors' valuations increase, it actually, if there's no change to your taxing district, should result in a reduction, because more properties have been online essentially. It's changing a little bit of that pie. And so there are no windfalls for the school districts, for the zoo. Once they've gone to the ballot and they've asked for X amount of money, that's all they're getting. And so that was the legislation that was passed in the early 80s that continues forward, causes a lot of questions in terms of, I see one number, it's being reduced, what's the real number? Those reduction factors are always added into the tax bill, but we are required to show that as well. That is not a good looking slide. I think that is meant to show all of the additional taxing options of Blendon Township. So I think it's easy to read when I'm not standing up here showing up on the screen. Questions on property tax bills, kind of that overview. It's a good chance to catch our breath or answer any questions you have. I don't know if it gets open to the public later. Happy to answer any questions on kind of that snapshot of what you see in your tax bills auditor's role. All right, and then we'll keep, yes,
One
please.
question, with the levies that are out there, how does that affect the property tax? For example, Westerville put on a tax levy. How does that affect the property tax versus that levy?
Should she go back to that distribution page?
You can. I mean, it's gonna be based on how they wanna collect on that levy. So once the voters say, we're gonna allow you to collect that levy at X amount, school district doesn't necessarily need to collect all of it. I know Westerville also shifted a little bit to a sales tax, so they're getting away from the property tax driven piece. It was an option that they pursued that I think you'll see more school districts go to, but it's going to increase your property taxes if they collect that full amount. And depending on what the amount is and how they designed it, so when I say design it, Bexley's actually incrementally increasing their levy amount. So first year it was, I'm gonna somewhat make up a number, 1 year, next year's 5 years, by the end of it, it'll be at 15%. So it is going to incrementally increase versus all the front amount. Every school district or levying agency can pursue it however they want. And again, just because it's been authorized doesn't mean they have to collect it, although I am yet to see an entity not collect the levying amount that gets approved, except for City of Columbus when they do their bonding. They could, so City of Columbus had a number of bond issues last November on the ballot. They could collect on that. They have never collected through property taxes to pay off the bond loans that they receive. So it's going to be up to every municipality, every levying agency. That's why I think it's important to ask questions before voters vote on it, to understand what their intent is and then hold them accountable to that intent if they vote for it or against it, to be honest. That answer the question?
Yes, we have I was just getting at, I know that you have a levy, you've got the tax assessment, but there's also that 1.5 tax on top of that. I was just wondering if that.
Yeah, I think you're.
Okay.
We have nothing to do with income
Yeah,
tax.
no,
so
that's
we're very
fair.
happy that
That's
school
a big
districts
line.
want to pursue the income piece.
Well, just real quick, at the Ohio Township Association, there's a lot of talk about the proposed elimination of property taxes. And we talked about the gentleman in charge of getting the signatures. I don't know if you've heard any of this. And I'm asking you.
Yeah, I hear a lot of things.
You're downtown.
So I don't know what this is.
Well, there was talk that that person's very holding tight to the vest, how many signatures they have, where they're at on that. And I don't know if there's any rumors downtown about they're getting close, they only have 200, they have 300, maybe, you know. There's a lot of secret to talk about.
It's a group I don't frequent, on the Facebook page, but to your point, they have not shared where they're at in the collection process. I've heard about every 2 weeks, they've got signatures, then 2 weeks later, no, they don't. People are really trying to read between the lines. What they have been clear on is even if they don't have enough signatures by the early July filing deadline to make this November, they're gonna keep collecting, which they can, and put it on the ballot in the future. So I don't think, the concern or the momentum goes away. And I think part of it, just because of all 88 counties have to do statutory updates, people see historic value increases, not just in Franklin County, but across the state. And in other counties, it is a little bit more of a one-to-one, because of a different calculation that we don't have in Franklin County. So I imagine, I'm gonna guess they have the signatures, to be honest, but, if they don't, they're not gonna go away, and I expect it'll come back, which is an important conversation. General Assembly, so what we'll hear from folks is it unconstitutional to fund schools using property taxes? There was cases in the late 80s, early 90s called DeRoff, where the Ohio Supreme Court said, yes, it is unconstitutional to fund schools using solely property taxes. Then the General Assembly reacted a couple times. Another DeRoff case, Supreme Court said unconstitutional. General Assembly changed some other stuff, still unconstitutional. Ultimately, they said, we're not happy, we don't think we're meeting the thorough and efficient standard in the state constitution, but we're no longer going to tell the General Assembly how to act. And so for about 4 decades, there's a ongoing conversation of this is unconstitutional, why are we still funding schools through property taxes? General Assembly has not come up with an additional solution. There's been different proposals, so school funding formula that seemed to be gaining consensus and support past 1 year. Current General Assembly decided that they couldn't be beholden to previous General Assembly's authorizations, and so I don't think the issue goes away. Long answer, but I don't know how many signatures they have. They're not gonna, I'll be maybe the last one to know. So pivot to this year, every 6 years, we are required to do a master appraisal update where we go out and view every parcel, then we do a 3-year increment update. We are in the 2026 triennial property value update. So later this year, every property owner in Franklin County will receive the auditor's tentative value. We are required to do this. And then we want to work with every property owner to make sure that tentative value is fair and accurate. And if we're off, we want to hear from them. What we're not trying to do is increase taxes, not looking to see whether or not someone can afford their home. We are doing just the statutory process of, particularly in the triennial, this is what we're seeing in terms of sales within what we have deemed your delineated neighborhood. We think if you put it up on the market, this would be hopefully a little lower than what you would get. The auditor is not the real estate market. We are providing tentative value based on sales and the formula that the Department of Taxation requires us to do. Our one-stop shop of all things triennial update is our Know Your Home Value website. As we continue to get more and more online with it this year, this was where property owners are strongly encouraged to go to be able to look up the tentative value, do that calculation of, okay, this is what the auditor says my tentative value is, this is what it would look like with my current taxing district. You can also compare recent sales within your delineated neighborhood so you can see what we're looking at. And if you want to skip to the next one, disagree with the auditor's tentative value, you're encouraged to participate in a property value review meeting. Those will be occurring July to September. It's an opportunity for a property owner to say, hey, auditor's office, you got it real wrong. Or maybe not real wrong, but we think off $50,000, $70,000. Our square footage wasn't correct, bathroom count's not correct, or hey, there's been 3 additional sales since the lien date of this year. This is the direction our neighborhood's going in, and we think our value should be updated for that. So we're gonna send out notification in about a month of just the postcard saying the property value update is coming. Get ready, then we will send the auditor's tentative value. Encourage anyone who disagrees to take advantage, or has questions, take advantage of the property value review. You can do those in person, you can do those virtual, or you can submit documentation online. All of this leads to December, where the auditor's tentative value becomes the final value, and then 35% of that final value in the taxing district is what is used for the property tax. After all of this process, if you still disagree with the auditor's tentative value, you can then pursue a Board of Revision filing. The Board of Revision is made up of the auditor, the treasurer, Board of Commissioners. We will take additional evidence, review it, and make an update to valuations, which can occur every year. The goal, and for every property owner, is to take advantage of that tentative property value review. If you come to that, we're not going to increase your value. It will only hold flat or be a decrease. Same if you go to the Board of Revision and you present evidence. No one's gonna be like, oh, we missed one, and we're gonna seek an increase. But those are 2 bites at the apple that every property owner has in 26 and into 27 to have us make sure we have a fair and accurate valuation. Board of Revision, mentioned all of those folks that serve on it. It happens annually. A lot of time where we hear from folks on Board of Revision is a taxing entity, particularly school districts, may file on a property and say, hey, we think the value is low, we saw a recent sale, we are now gonna pursue and seek an increase. There's a procedure that they're allowed to pursue, but it really is a great opportunity, and we encourage people to participate in both the informals and the Board of Revision to make sure we have a fair and accurate process. And again, it's an every 3-year cycle that is going to occur. One thing we do also have under state law is a number of exemptions for qualifying individuals. The big one being the homestead exemption. There's 4 types of residents, property owners that it applies to. The biggest is our older residents, but also disabled homeowners, disabled veterans, and surviving spouses of first responders. We want to make sure everyone is getting all the benefits that the state law provides. So if you have questions of qualifying for any, or being one of the individuals that qualify for homestead, we want you to contact us, make sure you're getting the benefit. Homestead's a little bit of a challenge just for the older adults because in the history of homestead, it was originally created with both an age and economic cap. The governor came in, got rid of the economic cap, so it was just age driven. So we saw a lot of older residents take advantage. Another governor came in, put the economic cap back. And so the economic piece is under income threshold 41,000 is what we're seeing now is more and more older residents, but less and less being able to meet that low income threshold. And so we'll work with everyone, share kind of what the challenge is. It ultimately results in a reduction of your property taxes with the state backfilling to those various levying agencies what money they would have gotten but for the exemption. That's why the General Assembly hasn't been in a rush to what I will term modernize it. So increase the threshold so more older residents get the benefit because they're on the hook for the bill currently, although they can create the legislation however they want if they don't want to pay that backfill. There's been a lot of storms recently. My daughter flew in between hailstorms on Sunday night at 11 o'clock. Always an opportunity that we want every property owner to know, not only when there's storms, but if there's any damage or destroyed property. So if there's flooding, if trees fall on property, if there's black mold that's making it uninhabitable, property owners can file with the auditor's office a very bureaucratic form, but it's an important one that makes sure we're updating the fair. Our goal is to make sure we're valuing at the fair and full value of that property. If there's damage, you're not receiving that. So we can update during that period where we're waiting for insurance to pay, waiting for that improvement to occur. So it's a timely plug to work with us to fill out the DTE Form 26. Every time I say DTE, it's very bureaucratic, but it's a prescribed form, and we'll work with everyone to make sure we get it in there. And then as it gets improved, get back to that auditor's valuation we previously had. So that's the presentation that I brought forward. There was a lot of questions, covered a lot. As always, you can feel free to shoot me an email, Auditor Stenziano, frankcountyiowa.gov. Call the office on any and all questions, including treasurer, recorder, engineer questions come up. I get called everything, get called foreman. So just let us know. Any questions from you all or any members of the public?
You members of public have questions. Do you feel like you learned something you didn't know before? In shock?
I learn something new every day.
Our senior center director, who's kind enough to play Vanna for you, she actually heard from someone from your office today as well. Made an offer to come out in June and do a homestead exemption presentation at the senior center, just to talk about homestead exemption, which I think would be a good idea, because it's great to put the bulletins up there. They can see the DTE form, that's different.
Or help them fill it out.
Everything we do is bureaucratic and prescribed by the Department of Taxation. And so it is very confusing and frustrating for residents in particular.
Right.
And for homestead exemption, we are mandatorily required every year to send out a letter, and all it does is cause mass confusion. Because has anything changed? And if nothing has changed, you don't have to do anything. Well, I appreciate all the older adults that are reading it, and they're getting confused of, well, why am I getting this? Nothing's really changed, but I don't want to lose that benefit. And so we have doubled down and working and having different homestead clinics, working and trying to help the connectors, so connect the connectors a little bit of what that process looks like, what that timeline is. It's also confusing for folks that if you file this year, it's not gonna show up until 27 because of when that tax lien date is and how property taxes are paid in arrears. Best way I can describe it is when you go out and have a nice meal, you don't pay your bill before you consume the meal. Conceptually, you don't pay your property taxes till you've gotten the benefits of all the services provided. With the caveat being, when a new levy passes, there seems to be a desire to collect as early as they can, and then you get the benefit, arrear cycle following that one. But I appreciate that plug, and we are always welcome to be out and about and not at the tall buildings out there.
They'll be here to assist with applications too, is my understanding.
Terrific.
Yeah, yeah.
And that can be done, speaking of clock right now.
You can.
I was on this like.
It's confusing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
And we try and make it as clear as
I pulled
possible.
out the form and it's like 10 pages. I'm looking at this. I only need to put like a page and a half of this stuff. And I take it that basically for our situation, it would be like, we just go do a name, rank, and serial number, and then you go, you have access to the income records and that kind of stuff for people who get, is that correct?
Depending on the circumstances, that is correct.
Yeah, it was a little crazy at first. I'm used to going on your site and looking at the dog license, that's easy.
I appreciate you saying that. Not everyone remembers their vaccine number, and that causes a lot of frustration.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming
Appreciate the
out
opportunity
tonight,
here.
doing the
Again, we
presentation.
are happy as we get closer to the triennial update, kind of breaking it down. I did bury the lead, so on average, values are increasing across the county 8% on residential and about 7% on all commercial. Warehouses being the big spike that we're seeing. So didn't mean to hide that number, but that's the direction it looks like it's going. But that's going to be the big one for all property owners to participate in as well.
Are there any other questions you hear when you go to communities like this and speak that maybe the audience might have? Because they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what to ask. I do it every day, so to me, it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest misconception is the value increase is the tax increase. And I slip up with it when I talk about it sometimes as well. The value increase is not a tax increase, and particularly in Franklin County because we aren't in this dynamic. So there's a reduction factor with schools and how much money they could lose that was passed in the 80s called the 20 mil floor. That's, and those counties are more 1-to-1 ratio. We have about 8% of property owners that are in a 20 mil floor school district. They're actually based in one of the surrounding counties, and the properties cover over into Franklin County. That is going to be the biggest relief folks would see in the relief that the General Assembly passed. We aren't going to see that in Franklin County. So that's the biggest question I get. Why am I not seeing a reduction? You're going to hear the General Assembly say they passed, and they did, billions of dollars in property tax savings. In Franklin County, we're not going to see that this year We'll see some savings next year when the owner-occupied credit is going to increase from 2.5% to 10%. But if you're owner-occupied, you used to get a credit, and they're taking that away. And then they're going to backfill it all by taking away our sales tax holiday and using the savings from what they used to give as a benefit to then pay and make sure that it moves into the hole that was that first year. So biggest question is, where are my savings? I'm on record saying you're gonna save about 2 pizzas a month, not billions. But I would encourage everyone to continue to remind the General Assembly how important these issues are, that these are kitchen table issues, and that there still needs to, more that needs to be done.
I have a couple more questions for, if any of our residents, and again, I'm familiar with it, but I guarantee they're not, and it can be intimidating when you go before the board, at the Board of Revisions. But what is the process for anybody who feels their property taxes might be higher than they should? They have through the end of this month to file, correct?
So I will remind them, if you feel your property taxes are too high, that is not necessarily a reason to file a Board of Revision filing. If you feel your auditor's valuation
The value,
is
excuse
too
me,
high,
assessed value.
then we want you to file a Board of Revision. Not lost on me though, if your property tax is too high, your valuation is the #1 spot a property owner can change the equation. So yes, up until March 31st is the deadline for this year's Board of Revision filing. The auditor's office has 2 more mobile filing events, so you don't need an appointment. One is tomorrow, I forget, maybe at Sharon Woods Metropolitan Library, and then next Tuesday, the 31st, we're downtown all day to accept those. But at Board of Revision is an opportunity to say, hey, we feel the auditor's valuation is off. What we're seeing right now are people that are likely planning to sell and they want the value higher. So they're submitting, oh, you had my square footage wrong for all these years, but now that I'm selling, we'd like you to increase it. And so they can file that way. But it's providing documentation of outdated structure, damage that we don't go inside any of the homes, so it's important for the homeowner to share that information with us. Or if there's other recent sales that are occurring that they feel is swaying that delineated neighborhood. Third-party appraisal is also a very helpful tool, but is not required. When we bought our first home, it was a lot split, and so we were being filed against because of the old value, and they're trying to argue on the split, so just kind of went in, told the story, and solved that reduction that we were seeking. So it really can feel intimidating. It is very quasi-judicial, but we try to make the process as easy and self-explanatory as possible. So if there's any questions on a filing, we've got great subject matter experts. We also are the only county that has a mediation program, so if you're seeking a value change of $50,000 or less, you'll be encouraged to go through the mediation program. So a third-party mediator will try and work with property owner and auditor's rep across the table, if you will, to try and establish why and what the justification for the reduction is. But the mediation program been around for multiple decades and been a real success in terms of a less formal program and working and making sure we get that value stream accurate.
One of the things I'll notice, because I'm pulling up property tax cards every day, is potentially, and I always tell my clients, well, I need to see your home before I can value it, because what the county has and what I see are sometimes 2 different things. So you might want to look at the county site, go through all the tabs, and see what it shows. Does it have your house as a 2-story when you're really a ranch? Does it have your house as a 4-bedroom when you have 3 bedrooms? Do you have 2.5 baths and it says 4.5 baths? Because that would be a good reason.
So yeah, that is an important distinction. So we can only rely on the information we have. We inherited the information, and so really want property owners to go look at the property record card, and if something is off in terms of land size, features within the structure, we are going to value based on what the property record card is. Well aware it could be inaccurate, and so the property owner plays an important role in making sure we get that. There's nothing worse for me than people get the property tax bill, and that's the first time they've engaged their office, because they've missed multiple bites at the apple, where we can work through a much less bureaucratic process, but also get everyone's busy. It's a complicated process that's spread out over time. People want to focus on Ohio State football in the fall, not property values, but we got to work through the backstory space. That's a great point. Property card is an important record and one we're relying on, but property owners every day can clarify and update us on what is inaccurate.
And along that line, I've heard this question asked a number of times, and I'd love to hear the answer, because I've heard both. let's say she pulls up her property tax card and sees that you have her listed as a 4-bedroom, 2-bath ranch, and she's always been a 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch. She contacts your office. Does she get any tax benefit for all the years that it was wrong?
We can go back 3 years. I think it depends where we are within the cycle. So there could be a catch-up, if you will, but it's just gonna depend on where we are in the record and how off it could be. So in that example, they probably would, just because it was so off. But if it's just a closet or a bathroom or a room, it probably is not going to result in any change in the calculation. Just depends how off it really is.
On the damaged or destroyed property tax relief that you hit on briefly, does that reduction, is that just for that year?
It's through the process until permits are pulled and it gets fixed.
Okay, and it would be up to the homeowner to say, hey, it is fixed now?
It is. Now, we will go through our 3-year cycle, so particularly when we do the master appraisal, we'll go out. Now, we're not gonna go inside the home, but if we had noted a damaged fence or a damaged roof, we can see that, and so it would get updated. If it's flooding in the basement, someone may knock and ask, or we're just looking at what permits are being provided from the local municipality.
My only thing is the 31st deadline is really just for the
Board of Revision.
for the Board of Revision, but for the current, cycle. So we've got spin up, happening for this triennial. I think that's where we'll get more information, probably more content.
Yes. So
Reassessments, I'm sorry, reassessments.
It is actually, it sounds very adversarial.
Yeah.
3rd year of the cycle is the lowest amount of board of revisions we get, and then it starts all over once we get it. Now, the challenge I have to my team is I'd like to see no board of revisions. It means we worked with the property owner, we got it right. I'm told it's not realistic, but we're working hard. And then counterintuitive, we should see a high percentage of those see a reduction. So that, again, means we got it wrong, they got us the information, and we updated it. Versus if some counties are like, we only have a 30% success rate through the BOR. Something's off there that it's valued one way and the property owner thinks it should be something else. It should be about an 80–85% success rate with a lower number if we are doing our jobs correctly. And so that's where an area we're always trying to improve. Particularly, I've mentioned delineated neighborhoods, so getting better at comparing like properties, like history of those developments. It was very broad when we started and really trying to lean in on delineated neighborhoods, so we've almost doubled the amount that we've had. So it should, and again, with the Know Your Home Value website, be able to clearly see what are we looking at, what are we comparing to, and we got it right or wrong.
Do not be afraid to call his office. They're so friendly, they're very responsive. I mean, it's so easy to work with. If you have a question, ask it.
Please, yeah.
If not here,
Yeah.
call them.
Anytime. Anytime. All right, well, thank you guys for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate
coming
your
out.
time.
Moving on to discussion items. Pat, you wanted us to take a look at the newsletter.
Yeah, so there was discussion about the newsletter being more frequent, and more frequent being every single quarter. And we looked at, okay, that's gonna be more postage costs, how do we drive costs down on that, and so forth. Taylor spent some time, Val and I spoke about it, because they do a newsletter here. How do we condense the newsletter to make it 1 page, 4 pages, well, 4 pages, but 1 sheet of paper, and we came up with an idea. We gave it to you, total rough draft, I mean, I get that part. But the format was kind of, hey, here's the trustees and fiscal officer Barry, here's what's going on this quarter in their lives. And then the next page was kind of department heads, Eric and Matt, Val, myself, what's going on in our lives on a daily basis that affect our residents. And then just all the upcoming events, the updates, when we're closed, those type of things, employee spotlight, a lot of informational stuff, and then sticking to the same kind of format as before with all the different contacts and where we can call and those stuff. And we felt that if we did this and did it every quarter, that we wouldn't need as long of write-ups from us, you guys, because it would be more, you do it 4 times a year instead of maybe 2 or 3, that we could cut the cost down to, by making this shorter, postage doesn't change, we're still sending, well, it does change with the weight and measurement. But also, we're doing it more frequent, so there's postage there. But, so that was our idea, we threw it out to you guys for discussion. You know, what, I heard some feedback from Trustee Zobel, what if all the cool information was on the front, and then inside was kind of the trustees and, you know, those type of things. We can do anything we want, speaking for Taylor, as far as that goes, you know, because she runs the software. And many people talk about Val's newsletter that comes out of here, they kind of like that. So we're trying to kind of make them both kind of together. Like, how do we make it a little shorter? How do we still give all the good information from the township and the people that work here, as well as all the fun stuff and everything else? So that's kind of what we're at, and just looking for feedback.
Yeah, like I said, like you mentioned, I gave you some feedback. My only thing was, yeah, I like that idea, and it's not something that if we go with this format right now, we don't have to stick with that forever. It's a good way to get something out there, get them the information, and get feedback from the residents and see what y'all like better. But yeah, I did like the idea. As a resident, if this came to me, I would much rather see all of the information on the front page that actually affects me. And at some point, I might get around to reading everybody wrote.
I would personally agree with that. Have we, can we, explore even offsetting this with, you know, sponsorship, advertisements, like, it's possible.
You can't do that with that size.
Not with this size, no, not with this size, you're right. I just think that there's an opportunity to both promote our local businesses, bring people on, offset some of that cost, which we're allowed to do as a township, but would also give us the ability to bring in, you know, you might have a church that has a few things going on, or you might have, you know, a business that wants to promote a big event or Friday nights here, and that's a great way, I think, to even offset some of this cost. Now, yes, this size would not work for that. You might throw a slide or two, you know, in the middle of this. It would increase the postage cost, but also we'd be, again, promoting local and offsetting some of our own costs there.
How many of these get mailed out?
About 3,624.
So just so you guys know,
Just about.
so 3624, that would cost us about $40 to do one full page additional.
Make it free.
Yeah.
$40.
Yeah.
So depending upon what we did, I mean, that shouldn't be the reason we're cutting it back to one, because that's $40, and the postage cost is just a hair, because I did that whole analogy, just a hair more to go back to the old format. I'm just throwing that out there because I'm immersed in this on a daily basis. So I think more than anything, it's just maybe more work for the staff, because the cost is not. Did you do a breakdown, Taylor?
Well,
You know, like I did when we were
yeah,
switching over?
Yeah, there's not a huge savings on going to one.
No, there's not.
huge.
It's not.
It's going to one is, we're sending 4 times instead of
Right.
2, so do we
Right.
need it to be as big because we're not putting full page discussions in from people like us?
Yeah, and my big thing was send it out more often so the information is more timely and more relevant, getting it to people more quickly. Like I said to Pat, like, you don't want somebody getting it a couple of times a year and being like, well, that's great, everybody else had a great time at that party, and I missed out because I didn't know it was coming, so.
I thought there was a time when we used to do them quarterly.
I feel like there was as well.
Am I allowed to ask?
Yeah, I don't care.
Did we used to do these quarterly?
We have, and mostly we did them 3 times. When we did them quarterly, we gave them around events that were coming, you know, to get those in there.
That makes sense.
Like in the first of the year, if you look at January or February, there really wasn't much going on in terms of events. Even though, and so we would wait, you know, until like very early spring, and that made it 3 on an average.
So 3, but you're 4. I mean, it's just the work getting it done and getting it folded and tabbed, because we don't do that in-house.
We don't do the full tab in-house now.
It'd be great if we did, but we don't. Then we're all self-sufficient. We can do everything. We can send one out. We could decide to print it today. It could go out in 3 days. You that makes it very timely. But I know that we outsource
Luckily,
that.
luckily the company we use does it in less than 2 days.
Do they?
Yeah, they do it quick. I
And
mean,
these
we'll
can
give
get
them that.
printed in one day, less than 1 day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not awful, but it is an extra day. So, yeah, it's, it's just more of a frequency. The more frequently you do it, the less information you're gonna have to put in it, without just putting stuff in there, just my thought on it.
Yeah, if there's nothing that we need to get out to
I mean,
the
all of this
residents,
stuff
then-
is, this stuff here is important.
on the
Not all
website.
the community, but it is, you're right, as you've always told us.
Print is.
The only way to touch everybody.
Yep, that's me, I'm a
is to
print
send it
girl.
to the mail. Yeah, the only way to touch everybody is to send it to the mailbox. We're never gonna have 10,000 people on our email list. I
Right.
mean, if I get 500, if I get 1,000, but we're never gonna get 10,000. But we're gonna get,
People
3,600
will read it.
households, I mean,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just,
I'm fine with whatever format you guys choose to do.
I'm ready, yeah, let's try this out, let's see how it goes. Good with
and
that?
then a lot of it will depend on the three of you. So when Taylor says, I need something to put in that spot, I need something to put in that spot,
Yeah.
so it doesn't drag. I know you guys are busy, but that particular to-do from these guys, everybody will have to be, hey, Taylor sent a message, let's get it to her the next day so we can get it out.
Yeah, give us a deadline.
Put it out there. Good at that. So, but we talked about this, Val and I and Taylor talked about this, Eric as well. If we could, by the end of this week, if we can get something from you guys here, we can get this thing
By the
out
end of
next
this
week and,
By Friday?
yeah, like 2 days from
Oh,
now.
jeez.
Break something up,
Yeah,
we can all-
maybe not.
We can all plan to, well, the reason I say that, we could get this out
How many
in
characters?
time to,
That's
keep.
very rough.
It's very rough.
How many characters?
I don't know what that
Word count, she's got 50 to 65 words.
is. That's just.
Yeah, that's
We can
just,
just say hello, have a good day.
there's more than that.
Yeah.
And if we
What was the-
don't have anything to say, we could also fill it up with something else that's more relevant. If you had some great games and stuff in your newsletter that I thought, I love that. Yeah, I can give up my spot here and there. You wanna put in a little crossword puzzle or
The
something?
only reason I bring the turnaround is if we get it out next week, we capture every single thing for April, May, June.
Okay.
We don't miss an April deadline. That's
Okay.
what we were hoping to do. If we get it in the mail, people get it, the first thing on there is like April 8th.
How many characters did you say?
It says, she has in here 50 to 65 words, but I think if you send us something, she can say, send it right back to you and say, cut this down by 2 sentences, I'm good, or whatever, We can stretch it a little bit, there's still room there, this is really rough. So, whatever you'd wanna write.
We don't have a tough time getting into 50 and 60 words.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people need to know what we're doing as their trustees, and this is the only way they see that. So if you're not telling them what you're doing to help the community or to help them, or to encourage them to contact you if there's issues, why are we even in there?
Well,
What
that-
if we put
that's
the three of
what
us
we-
together and it
what
was
we could do
from
is
us?
we can nix me, we can nix Eric, Val, Chief, because we're dealing with the public on a daily basis. They kind of know what we're doing, we're communicating with them, we're working with them. We go with 3 larger for the trustees, and then use the other stuff for some photos and stuff, and, maybe one we do from the desk of Eric Moore, maybe one we do from the desk of Matt Newman, and maybe the next one's from the desk of Val Shaw. We do 1 director every time, or 2, so we can stretch your information, because you are doing things behind the scenes that the residents see what we're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah,
They see
they don't
it
know
getting
what we
mowed,
do.
they see us out cutting trees, they see Eric out, holding commission meetings, whatever. But from you guys, maybe we stretch you guys, move us out for, and maybe go 1 or 2 of us each one, instead of all of us.
Or even, I think you mentioned to me at one point, like even just one trustee every,
You could do that too, you can have one
Yeah.
trustee do the letter for the first one trustee the letter for the second one, third one, and then
But-
Joanne do the 4th one.
But then we serve together.
Yep.
So we wouldn't, I still think that's just me. I don't know, what the general public thinks, but when I was campaigning the first time, years and years and years ago, 2012, I think it was, and I was walking door to door, people had no idea what a trustee was, what a trustee did, and why there was a trustee for Blendon Township.
right,
And I learned very quickly, oh my goodness, people don't know what we do. If we don't tell them what they do, they just think we're up here paying checks and, and making decisions on their behalf that they may or may not agree to. I think they really need to know what we do.
So, go ahead, Val.
Well, I'm gonna piggyback on you. I think people out there in the township really need to know what the senior center is all about too. 'Cause
Yeah.
one day they are going to be here.
Sooner.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We're getting there.
Our goal here is really try to reach out to the residents and, invite them to like our art show that I have here. That is for the whole community to enjoy. There's a lot of talent here. And then we're gonna have food truck and movie nights and for the township here and just enjoy being with our seniors here. So I think there's a lot of information that needs to be shared, like for instance, our flea market. You know, we had our flea market here. We tried, I mean, it was a little late in the day of trying to get information out, but we tried to reach out to residents. We don't have that means to reach everybody like you just said. So I think, you know, getting this out in writing and saying, hey, we have a flea market once a month now. Come down and see, come down and enjoy.
I didn't know you did it once a month, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, we just started, we had our pilot last week.
Okay, I saw the pictures of that one.
Yes,
So what
yes.
about this? What about this? How about, we'll do this. Tomorrow, Taylor will, kind of rearrange this thing, taking what you have to say, more of the trustees, what's happening at the senior center. We'll make some different boxes and stuff. You guys commit to getting us something to put in that box.
Okay.
Don't worry about how long it is. We'll figure out, get back to you. And then we'll rearrange this and send it back out to you one last time. And you guys say, yeah, that one looks good. Let's try that one and see what happens.
we're-
Then we can talk between now and the next one about, do we want to go out, send a letter to the businesses? We're going to sell some ads and do those type of things as well. And then where there's spaces to be filled, we've got plenty of cool pictures from the township and different things that have happened, and we can fill the space. Is that fair? So we
I'm
at least get something
Totally
moving?
good with that, yeah. And we're trying to get this printed next week.
I'd like to, yeah,
Okay.
because if we got it in the mail by, in middle of next week, end of next week, people would have it with every single thing on there
Okay.
still not dated.
Okay.
I don't want them to get it on the 10th of April and say, oh, I already missed the regular trustee meeting.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So maybe plan on printing Monday, contact the
Like
older
Tuesday.
tabbers, and then tell them you'll have it to them by Tuesday, so we've got by Wednesday if you want the people to have it by Friday. Because that's about how long it takes. Saturday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, we'll try to get it done Monday. One day is not enough to print this without overtime. It's not enough. It takes over 10 hours to print this when you do it as big as we used to. It takes 10 hours.
We're
to
not
print.
doing this.
I know. I'm looking forward to seeing how long it'll take. Because it just runs constantly, which is great. It's great, but it's a lot. And that thing is, it's really fast when you just want to make copies. But when this is beautiful as this, it takes a
Well,
while.
that's because it's folding it, it's
I
flipping it
understand.
over, it's going 3 different ways, so
Yeah,
it does.
I understand why. So we stack them, put them in the mail thing, take them over. But yeah, we can, definitely, if we get that stuff back from you guys, we can have it out the door before the end of the week, and they'd have it by at least that Monday, which is before any of this happens. Okay.
All right, so we
Thank you.
got that. I've got one other thing, since we have 9 minutes. If we can go back to what we had briefly talked about at the last regular meeting about possibly going to just once a month, regular trustee meetings, which would be on the 4th Wednesday of every month, just like today is after the work session. And that typical second Wednesday of every month where we were having the regular trustee meeting, that would get filled up by anytime we needed to have a special meeting for some specific reason. Chief Belford, he also brought up with the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, once that gets going and apply, we have one applicant, so this is your chance to use your voice and then show up, and we could do meetings on that night as well with everybody showing up and have one trustee there. And then my lovely husband had an idea that I loved, which was also using those second Wednesdays for a coffee or tea with a trustee, where it would give each one of us a chance to sit here, just the trustee and any of the residents who want to come talk to us, ask questions, yell at us, whatever, to do that at that time as well. And so we'd each get our turn in the barrel, so to speak, for that one, at least once a year, I'm sure. So, and that would be, you know, a good time with it just being the trustee too. You know, if you want to complain about anybody else, they won't be here to.
Or you can contact us every day.
You can, but if you
don't
wanna
have to
hang
wait
out-
for meetings to do that. If you have an issue, we welcome calls, we welcome emails. It's not, the one thing you don't wanna see is people waiting to come in to complain,
agree.
because then they've had 2 weeks to kind of stir and fester. Contact us when the problem's there, so you remember it, we can address it, by the time you get here, it's all solved.
Or let us know we're doing a great job.
Or that, oh, that'd be
Yes.
great.
But I love the idea of everybody being in a group together like that, because then we feed off of each other, and you can bring ideas and just all the things. So, I guess I'm asking for opinions here from everybody.
Go with any of those.
With that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a good alternate use of the time.
Yes, very good way to put that.
Since it's already there, but yes, we do have to, get some applications in.
Yes, we
Before
do,
can
yes,
start those, 'cause
yes.
it doesn't do a lot if we're not having,
And that'll
that
go
session
on
there.
that newsletter, and hopefully get some people coming
You'll-
in for that.
you should get one more soon. I printed a copy out for a resident and dropped it off, so
Okay.
she'll fill it out and get it in.
Very
So at
good.
least two.
All right, yeah, and for any of you here or listening at home, this is it's definitely not us trying to take something away, it's us trying to find a more advantageous use of time, so that you actually do have a bigger voice, and it's just a more productive way to use up the time. So I guess the next step, since we're in agreement, would be to come up with a resolution that we would,
Yeah, so would you like to go ahead and hold the 2 April meetings? We have a special work session on the 7th, which is Tuesday. You want to keep the regular trustee meeting so you can act on this at that regular trustee meeting and change the schedule and have a new resolution approved, and starting May going forward, go to one? Is that how you'd like to do it?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That gives time to get,
Yeah.
people
Questions?
sending out applications.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we'll
let
con-
this go out.
We'll continue with the special work session on the 7th, on that Tuesday. On Wednesday, we'll hold a regular work session. We'll just hold a regular trustee meeting.
Yeah.
We'll do our business, part of which will be changing the meeting schedule for May going forward. And then we'll post that to the website and social so people have it. Okay,
yeah, that makes sense.
all right.
All right, we have 5 minutes. We might have anything else that we want to go over before we adjourn and then start the next thing?
Oh, I meant to tell you, Eric, and I was involved in something else when the auditor was here. You might want to talk to him about rental registration and how they handle that. And I meant to ask him that, and I totally forgot. Because there is a line item on the tax distribution card for rental registration. We have a lot of that in certain areas of our community.
That's the county level?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, they charge us for rentals.
All right, if we don't have anything else, I move to adjourn the Blendon Township Board of Trustee regular work session meeting at 6:26 PM. Need a second?
Second.
All right.
Trustee
meeting-
Atkin,
Yes.
trustee Siamaka,
Yes.
trustee Zobel.
Yes.
We'll take a bio break till 6:30.
All right, meeting is adjourned at 6:26 PM.
We will be on mute for 4 minutes.
Commission's regular meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. You may remain seated for a moment of reflection or stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joanne, can we get a roll call, please?
Atkins.
Yes.
Zobel. Yes. Siamaco. Quick introduction, we have Chief John Belford walking around as usual, Fiscal Officer Joanne Murray, Trustee Tim Atkins, myself, Trustee April Zobel, Trustee Delina Siamaco, we have our Service Director Matt Newman, and Township Administrator Pat Myers. At this time, if there's anybody who would like to step up to the podium for public comment, please do so.
Kim Clegg, 3614 McCaffrey. The last trustee meeting and after the recent work session, the township newsletter was going to be published and it was going to contain employee spotlight and so forth. That's all good. We need to know something about employee spotlights. But I know that there's a limited number of pages and there's costs and all of that. And there are questions that come up regularly on Facebook that people still ask about, such as open burning. I know that Vice Miller has in the past was very good about keeping us informed. He's got a whole sheet of paper about open burning, and those questions come up. And I think it's really good that we have open, we talk about the employees and making it brief so that we can have stuff like this in it. I know that the issue of fireworks has always been an issue, and open burning questions come up. The dangers of fireworks needs to be put out there again, and also stuff like trash protocol. We like to think that everybody knows that, but they don't. And I think, I was surprised at the meeting. I think, Pat, you said that there was 3624 of those that got mailed out? 3,624?
Yep.
That's all? I thought we had a township bigger than that.
What about
Just
households?
households. Yeah. With households, not residents.
We
We're
have-
about 10,000 residents,
Oh.
with 36 and change.
But there might be 3 or 4 people in here.
Oh, all right, well, that's why I was surprised. But anyway, just if we could include stuff like that on a regular basis, it would be great. And it is great to learn about people, but limited, somewhat limited. And that's all. I just wanted to bring that up, that you consider that newsletter, that you remember things like that and not wait for a Facebook page. Because that is a good time Facebook. And if this is going out to the households, that's great. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely, good ideas. I saw that. Thank you. Anybody else have a comment tonight? All right, moving on, Joanne.
Yes, did you have a chance to review the meeting minutes from March 11th?
Did I skip right over?
Yeah,
I did skip
fiscal
right over, I'm
officer.
sorry. Yeah, all right, go ahead.
I don't have anything.
Yeah, I got nothing, by the way.
That's one way to do it.
Don't forget Breakfast with the Bunny, and thanks to everyone who attended Mike Stinziano's session. I thought it was very informative.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you again for inviting him, that was a great idea.
Absolutely.
Tim?
Bunny was one of mine too, so, I've been under the weather all week, so I didn't have a ton of time, but the Aqua rate case had a bunch of stuff come through. It was briefs from a third party that made suggestions. The Public Utility Commission made an original, or like a recommendation as to what they expected things to look like. The OCC then came back in. I just want to bring it up because we are inching very close to when that decision will be made. I guess it's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. So I would keep an eye on your bills because there should be notification there. And then just be cognizant of that as you head into spring and watering and obviously summer. Hopefully we won't have another drought like last year. But the wastewater rates that will go into effect when this starts aren't going to be immediately visible because the wastewater is an average of your previous season's history. So while you may see like a mid-teen update for the water rates that go into effect pretty much immediately, the wastewater really won't be reflected until like October. So you'll see probably a little bit more of an increase there. But just to throw it out there, because it's gonna look like a couple of things will hit, but it's all just based on this one action that's occurring, so that's all I have.
I have a little bit. I think I mentioned last time that we were gonna be going over to Sunbury Woods Commons area, and yesterday Matt and Pat and I met with Franklin County Soil and Water, and then today we met with the Franklin County Drainage Engineer, and I don't want to get ahead of myself in saying we're doing these specific things, but we have a tentative plan over there to get some stuff done to really try and mitigate the flooding that's been going on over there for, I don't know, ever. And do it in such a way to help the park, it'll help some of the residents that the water is going over into, and then beautify the park as well with some of the ideas we have about putting in some rain gardens and native plantings and stuff, and that's just a little piece of it. And Pat, I'm sure you're gonna have more info on that at some point. as
We already
get
got some
a
information
plan
sent
going.
over from Franklin County Soil and Water.
Yeah.
And then, the gentleman from the drainage groups can come back out later this week and meet with Matt and do some laser shooting on, elevation and so forth to
Yeah.
look at some of this, how do we get some of this water away with French drain, tapping into the storm sewer. So there's some things we're looking at, and Matt will be involved, so will I, and we'll let you guys know as soon as we get more updates.
Oh, and Matt also had some good ideas about how to change up the entrance, because the main entrance off of, what is that, Valley?
North and
Valley
South
Flow North,
connection.
yeah, going into the park, just to make it more accessible for everybody and make the path a little more delineated right there.
Defined,
Yeah, some great ideas. I know we hear sometimes from Sunbury Woods residents that you do everything at Ridgewood Park, you don't do everything over there, and there's not any real reason for it. We're just, didn't really have anything to do over there now. Now I feel great about the fact that we can kind of help that area out, make it a little more usable.
Is Franklin County gonna be willing to help us with any of that?
The drainage piece
Yeah.
of it? They sent us some information. I also printed out the grant application I'm gonna look at, that can help us. We can do a lot of the work ourselves, so, and this one grant has a 20 to 25% match, but they give sweat equity too. So if Matt's team did something, we get credit toward the match based on our hours.
Ooh, I
and our
didn't catch that.
rates.
That's awesome.
So I'm looking at that, and it's not a hugely expensive project, Matt, you can speak to about linear foot, so
We've got the equipment.
it's basically two French drains that'll come into the main storm sewer. And while there will be money involved, I think we can mitigate most of it.
If we rent a trencher, we can actually do the work ourselves and install the pipe ourselves.
Old ditch witch.
And he gave us some ideas on where to tape and do some different things to make it last longer and so forth. And then there's a few trees out there we talked about as well. The Bradford pears around the township, including this complex, they flat out said, Frank County Soil and Water flat out said, well, I'll send you an email asking you to take them out. They really don't like those trees. So we were discussing, talking to you guys in the future about some of these here in Sunbury Woods, getting rid of them, and like you mentioned, take one down, plant two, do something different besides those. So it doesn't have to happen right away, but it's something we can look at in the future, especially the ones that are up here right against the sidewalk. At some point, they're gonna cause issues on the sidewalk. So
There are good replacements for those too, that are similarly flowering, but not invasive. So
Speak as much.
They gave
and
us
definitely don't think as much.
Yeah, we're gonna be
Give us a
hitting up
nice
your
list.
Leah's knowledge base.
Yeah,
they
that's
sent a list of some different trees that they recommend.
right up our alley, so.
And
that's
one lady was like,
perfect.
I'll send you an email today asking you to take them out. She was adamant, wasn't she?
Oh, they're
Yeah.
absolutely
Used
horrific.
to be the city trees for Westerville and I think London Township until they started falling into the roads.
If you look at, where that truck, was hit last year, autumn, on 161 and 270, and kind of spilled fuel everywhere, the only thing that survived are those Bradford pears.
Wow.
They're everywhere along the freeways. I mean, it'd be great if we got rid of as many as we can, but that's a tough task too, because they are prolific, so.
But yeah, over time, that should be
Yeah.
definitely on our list.
It
We said
absolutely should.
we take down the ones that do that make sense.
Could we approach some of the nurseries maybe and ask them to donate? In exchange, we could mention them in our newsletter?
Pam always tells me every year about a place that donates trees.
There are donations.
Who's up front?
Fact does, there was actually a tree filling thing that I couldn't attend because I was sick, but, so they were filling pots and planting just kind of the starters. And at the end of the season, they give those away, to residents, in the area as well. So, I mean, that's something that maybe not necessarily we're gonna get, some grand, lodging of these, but if we do put the effort into this, like, there is a return on investment at the end of the season for those too.
And I mentioned, you were there, April, that a friend of mine was head of Franklin's Conservatory for years before he passed, Bill Dawson, and his wife. I happen to be having lunch with her and another gentleman tomorrow. She's been with Oakland Nursery for 44 years, so I might throw it out at her too and just say, hey, you've been there forever, Jody, how can you, Jody resigned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I'm throwing it out to her and say, how can you help us?
Yeah.
See what she says.
There was even, I'm sure you saw it too, was it Knit Fact that was doing the foster a tree?
That's the.
That was the same, the fill-in
Yeah, so
thing?
once they fill them, people
Take
will
it home.
volunteer to take them home and water them. They get first pull, so if they want one of those trees, they get to keep those. And then the other trees that they're not keeping will end up going to be handed off to residents.
So I wonder if that's something that we could even do as a township, if
Oh,
residents
we've
wanted
got
to,
one.
yeah,
Right,
to
we've got it all
foster a tree and then, take care of it until it's ready to be planted into the ground.
Let's see what our
The water's pretty expensive.
Yeah. Yes.
See how many people we
I
get on that.
need all the help.
Pat, this isn't ready to cross your plate, and this is still sort of a trustee comment, but I've communicated back and forth with the, community backyards folks.
Okay.
And just kind of looking at what kind of time it takes. That program ramps up in April 1st, so really next week. But, I will get with you to see about getting the space so that we can actually bring them in and do another community backyards event here, which we did used to host regularly. But it's a great program, so I'll let them talk about it more, but I usually, promote it pretty well at the beginning of the season too, so. We're gonna try to get it here.
I think I had a little bit more, let's see here. Oh, I'm excited about this, we got, permission to do some bat houses around the perimeter of the cemetery, and that was actually, Joe Kakavar, that was his idea from quite a while back to do something like that, so that is something that we're looking forward to doing, that will help with mosquitoes.
Don't let them scare you.
No, not
You
at all.
don't see the bats.
Yeah, no
typically.
reason to be scared of the bats. The whole rabies thing is pretty much a myth anyway, but, what they will do, again, they'll take care of pests, and we need to save our bats. We need to save all the animals and all the wildlife anyway. And then underneath the bat houses, where they poop, that's where you plant some more native plants, and that fertilizes them, and all the flowers and stuff comes up. And these obviously aren't gonna be like right next to, cemetery plots and stuff like that. It'll be out on the edge, but that's something I was excited about as well.
Probably won't see bats for a couple of years. It requires mom to go in there and rear some children
Did you
before
guys
they
ever
release
get
them.
one?
We have one in our front yard.
You have,
So
well,
that's a
we
point
had a
of
bat
concern.
house for 9 years. We never got a single bat.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
One. So
One
this
bat.
might be the year, who knows?
Okay. We got that, Pat,
We would think anyway.
the wage study, is that up on the website now? I just forgot to ask you that.
It is
too.
not, because I was asked for more information waiting for Friday.
Okay,
So, but I can put that original wage study if you want without that information that trustees were asking about. And absolutely. put it on.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And I
the more
can
stuff we
attach
have
it
out
to that.
there, the better, and
I
then,
just know you guys have requested some additional
Yeah.
information. so
that's
it's
right.
I mean, we just
Right,
need a
that's right.
big
But
picture.
But I can put that out there, do it for.
Okay, yeah, get that out there for the residents, and then we were looking at, I think I just gotta get that from Joanne, the budget, annual budget, and then, payroll listing, get that out there as well. Those are just some of the things that, even though it's public record and any resident, anybody can come and ask for them, the more stuff we can get out there, so you can just find it on the website, the easier it is. And, Taylor's gone, but then she doesn't have to keep doing all those public records requests, so it saves her a little bit of time as well. So we're looking at doing that stuff. And that's all I have. So now we really can move on over to you, Joanne.
Have you had a chance to review the regular meeting minutes from March 11th?
Yes.
I'll move to approve the following trustee meeting minutes from March 11th, 2026 regular meeting.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion on the table to approve the following trustee meeting minutes from March 11th. We have a second. Any discussion?
No.
Call for the vote. Atkins?
Yes.
Zobel?
Yes.
Seymour?
Yes.
And then have you had a chance to review the purchase orders?
I'll move to approve the following purchase orders as presented.
Second that as well.
All right, any discussion? Call for the vote.
Atkins?
Yes.
Zobel?
Yes.
Seymour?
Yes.
And then have you had a chance to review the bills?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll move to pay the bills as presented.
And I'll second this.
Any discussion?
No?
Call for the vote.
Atkins?
Yes.
Zobel?
Yes.
Seymour?
Yes.
That's all I have. All right. Give it back to you, Pat.
Thanks. I don't have any action to be taken tonight. I just want to give you some updates on a few things that you guys had asked me to check on. So first of all, the website. We have a renewal due with our current provider, Granicus, right now. And I got in touch with them, explained to them that I did not want to sign a one-year renewal, that I would look more to a 6-month renewal, because we're working with STG through the Ohio Township. So here's how I see it playing out. I think STG is going to be perfect for us. I think they're going to give us what we need, and they're going to have us accessible by next year. When we have to be accessible, handicap accessible on the website. So they're going to give me a 6-month. They're going to cut it in half. It's supposed to be $6,400 for the year. So we're going to pay them $3,200 for 6 months. The setup for the Platinum program, which will get us everything we need and then some on the website, is $3,200 with STG. So for this year, we'll spend the same amount of money to convert. It'll take them 6 months. What I've told them is I want to run a parallel for 60 days with 2 websites. I don't want just one website. I'll redirect to the new one, but I don't want to just cut one off one day because the new one's, and then it's not ready. So we'll work through over the next, once we get this handled the next week or two, and I'll bring it to you for actual approval. We'll work through 6 months with STG, and they'll meet with all the department heads, they'll meet with me, they'll meet with trustees, ask you questions, where do you want this, where do you want this, and we'll design the website. And then about month 4 or 5, we'll start to look at, okay, is this thing ready? So we won't start working with them until about late summer, because we'll do the last 6 months of the, getting that ready. But we won't spend any more money to do this, and then next year is $375 a month to host and give us maintenance and so forth. So at 400, you're looking 4,800. So what is 375 another? I can't do math that quick. I'm usually pretty good, but it's going to be about $4,000 a year instead of $6,400 a year going forward with STG, with better functionality, much more search capability for residents. The ability to get things quick without 4 or 5 clicks, so you can get to where you want to go. I've seen 4 to 5 different websites they've done. Taylor and I spent about 2 hours on the phone with them looking at different websites. I think it's going to be a good thing for us. But I'll bring all the details, the actual costs to you for your approval, if not April 8th on the 22nd. Okay.
That's fair. Their websites do look very clean and easy to navigate. I've visited a few of them that they've built. So
Search bar features, all
yeah,
that good stuff.
they're much easier to work with. So they in that session at the OTA they gave us a few links to visit and pulled some of those up there. Much more they're navigable. The information is available. Not just the information being available to find, but the information can be in a valuable location, so it's not not as menu driven. Doesn't have to be as menu driven. I know we have a lot of menus and sidebars, but yeah, their product looks very nice. Hey, Pat, is there any discussion at all? I know that everything it's public is org. Do we own .gov? Should we own .gov? Should we redirect .gov? I'm not talking about updating all our stuff, but just curious.
We don't. Taylor's looking at that. We don't know that we own .org at this point. We're going to work with Granicus on that. But STG has told us they'll help us with that, though, as far as retaining that. So, but we don't own .gov at this point. We'll see who does. But,
Well, I know it's not the other Blended Township in Michigan, because they own the Blended Township /M or -MI. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
The Columbus Foundation update I put on there, it's not, probably sounds foreign to you at this point, because I haven't really talked a whole lot about it, but the CIC was dissolved. We know that. We took the $26,000, had to be for a purpose public purpose, we did that for sidewalks. Jeff Pierce started that project now, it's starting, so the list that Matt and Jeff Tudor went out and looked at all the different sidewalks, they're looking, getting those taken care of. So I had a call with the Columbus Foundation today. I know in Delaware County, they have a community foundation where they will take in donations and manage that account for a local government and then disperse the money. He said it wouldn't work for us. Well, it could work for us. There's a couple of reasons. There's only two different kinds we can do. One would be donor directed. So if someone donated $100, $1,000, whatever, it could then be divvied back to only 5013Cs, so church and us. So we would be donating money back to ourselves to do things. So he said that probably wouldn't work. The endowment program has to be a minimum of $10,000 to start. He said that could work for you. You could then use it for single purposes to help individuals with things. However, again, the way it works is, in order to help all of the public, $10,000 or $20,000 is not going to do that. And if people put donations in there and say, I'm putting a donation, but it's only being used for the senior center, and that's the only place it can be used. So when people, even though it's not donor directed, they can still do that with the endowment fund as well, which well, we get one now from the Columbus Foundation. So he said he'd be more willing to talk to you all about it as well, but he doesn't sure that it'll work. He said traditional grant programs are gonna be better for us. So I just wanted to let you know, I tried to have a conversation with them, and it just wasn't what he was saying. So, he said if we have further questions, I can keep coming back to him and he'll answer them and so forth.
Yeah, or even look at, is there anything else out there? I mean, just because Columbus Foundation said no,
Right.
what else is out there?
Yeah.
What else can we do? Yeah, stop the conversation.
Plastic bag recycle program, I would have never imagined it'd be this popular. We put that bin out back, Matt put that bin out back, it looks real nice, we did a nice job with it, Val was happy with it. We don't want to mess with their center too much. And within a week, it was full being 12.6 pounds of plastic bags. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you lift it with that little scale, it's a lot of plastic. Emptied it, took them to school, reported it, sent a picture like we have to do so they get credit for their bench. In less than 2 weeks, it was full again, and it just keeps filling up. So kudos to the residents that are out there getting rid of their plastic here at our complex so that the school at Sunbury Woods can take advantage of that and get a bench. So, because it's going to take a lot of 12-pound dumpsters to get a bench. But we're not the only ones.
I was gonna say,
We're the only ones doing it. So,
half the time the bin at Kroger is stuffed to the max, or you can't find it, so, I mean, it's nice, easy drop off, it's not too far.
yeah, it's been great. So, we got that little scale and we take a picture of it, we send it to the young lady that takes care of that. She gives us credit for it, and then Matt's team takes it over to Kroger.
Yeah.
to get rid of it.
So we have, what, 1,950 pounds to go to get a bench, but,
From just
you
us,
know.
from just our
Yeah, the
perspective.
good news is we're not the only ones donating
Yeah.
for that bench, hopefully. Otherwise it'll be a little while, but.
She's been very excited about it each time, so.
Yeah, it's been very, popular. And again, kudos to the residents for, doing that. And we're doing some of it too here, we go to Kroger for the senior center, they're putting the bags in there, so. Just an update on that for you.
Thank you.
And then last would be, the mulching of the path. They're gonna come out next week and start to trim back, different things to clear the path. And then once the weather appears to be breaking a little bit, they're gonna start mulching within the next 2 weeks. So we'll see activity mulching that path, in the next 2 weeks. He contacted me this week. They did ask for a deposit. I sent that in.
And you're talking about Ridgewood Park?
Yes, I'm sorry, Ridgewood, the mile long, the point six. And one other update, I don't know, if most of you know, you probably all do, there's a really cool map there that had it all, marked off for you. And it got pretty much damaged during, was it kids or the wind or both? So we got a hold of the GIS guy down at Franklin County, and I told him the situation. Well, sounds like I got a little work coming my way. So we took a picture of it, we measured it, we sent it to him, and he's gonna try and replicate it to a PDF for us, exactly the way it is, at which time we can take it to more signs or somewhere to actually have that sign replicated again. So, we'll get it back out there, it's just gonna take a little bit of time.
That was just on the one entry point, right?
Off of Mexico.
Yeah.
Vashon.
Vashon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we should think about putting that on there. I
know, once we get the cost of it, like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's gonna be that much to repeat that, so it's almost like a cloth thing that sits in there.
Yeah.
But once we get that PDF back, then we can go forward. He said it would take a little time, because it doesn't just have the path in there, it's got the
Right.
contour,
Yep.
and all that stuff's in it, so.
And that's all really nice.
It is.
It was
It's
a nice
a
one.
good point too, and it's an odd place for it to be kind of at the Shaw. I mean, I know people do enter there, and I do that sometimes, especially with my dog. But having one at the main entrance would
Yeah,
definitely
right
make
at
more
the
sense.
Ridgewood Park entrance, kind of
Mhm.
where the mulch starts.
Right.
Would be a good place for it. There'll be more area cleared once we get packed in there
There is
too.
one by the parking lot.
Yes.
That's right,
Yes.
that's right, okay, yeah.
There's one off of Spawn, at the dead end of Spawn.
Never
The dead end.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know that.
Hidden country. Debris.
All right.
Unless you have anything for me, that's all I have.
That is it. Matt?
Yeah, I have our 2026 Miller Landscape proposal. With the trustees' approval, we get this signed and they got plenty of work to start on.
Make a quick point about that, if it's okay. You asked to have time to review it, you did. Got some feedback from trustee Zobel about some things she wanted added to it, as far as some different kinds of mulch, more environmental. You can speak to it better than I can. We sent that to Mr. Miller, and no, he didn't change the price at all, and agreed via email that they would be part of that. He's added it to the new quote as well, that they will do their best to do that, and also to use some native planting and so forth. But it didn't change the cost at all, and he did agree to that addendum.
Awesome, yeah. In the addendum, just for everybody, it was to use, not to use the dyed mulch, to use 100% natural mulch. And also, instead of just randomly spraying for weeds in any of the beds, it would only be as needed. And they can do it by hand, do that first, and then spot treat for any weeds. And then as plants die, those should be replaced by native plants, instead of just replacing them with whatever happened to be there before. So, slowly, we're making some progress with that. It'll be awesome. All right.
That's all I have.
Okay, and I will move to approve the annual agreement for 2026 with Miller Landscaping in the amount of $52,170.50 as presented. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Atkins?
Yes.
Zobel?
Yes.
Seymour?
Matt, if that's all you have, we're moving on down to Chief.
We've been working with Flock Safety this week. They're building us a transparency portal. They build an individual one for each department. As soon as that's ready, we'll have a link to post. And they are checking their schedule to see when they can have a representative at our meeting to do a short presentation.
Thank you so much for that. We don't have Fire Chief Brian Miller here, so we're gonna move back to y'all. Does anybody have comments now at the end? And again, these comments would be just about what we've discussed through the meeting tonight. If we don't have anything else, we're just left with announcements. We have a special trustee work session on Tuesday, April 7th at 5:30 p.m. And this is to discuss the Managed Natural Landscape Program.
And we will post that 24 hours prior to the meeting because it is a single-purpose meeting.
Okay, yes, that'll be the only thing that we discuss then. And then the next regular trustee work session is on Wednesday, April 8th.
Well, that's not right. Isn't it the third week, or the third? For a work session?
Tuesday the 7th, and then our meeting is on the 8th.
But there's another work
Oh,
session.
yeah, we're gonna move that to the 2nd, right? That's right, my bad.
Okay, so get rid of that.
It won't be a work session till, you're right, till
The end.
Okay, gotcha,
22nd.
thank you. All right,
Thank you.
yes. Let's start back over. We have a special trustee work session to discuss managed natural landscapes on Tuesday, April 7th at 5:30 p.m. The next night, Wednesday, April 8th, we will have a regular trustee meeting at 6:30 p.m. And I move to adjourn the regular trustee meeting at 7:00 p.m.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Atkins?
Yes.
Zobel?
Yes.
Seymour?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.